In our previous tutorials, we understood about the basics of ALM and understanding the architecture behind the screen. And also we have understood a little more about the benefits and features which I can achieve by using ALM. In today's tutorial, we'll be getting into the tool and starting interacting with the tool and understand how Site Administrator can help you create a user account, create projects, and also assign a person to the project, because it is very important in order to access ALM to have a user account and a project associated to you. So let's talk about this in more detail today.
The very first thing about ALM is how to launch ALM. So by default, when you install the ALM, it will be having a quick access icon developed on your screen on the desktop to quickly access that. So to just launch it, you can actually double click on that, or you can also make use of the URL, as an application like ALM is a web-based tool. So it requires a browser to access the tool and have a clear picture of what exactly the URL is. So if you have access to the URL, you will be able to have the access to the same. So let's begin with the very first and of the opening page of ALM. The very first thing is the URL. So if you focus on the URL, it includes http localhost :8080 and qcbin, where localhost is the server name and 8080 is the port number on which it is running, and qcbin stands for Quality Center bin directory, which is the working directory of Quality Center, and everything temporarily gets stored there. Now on the top, we have learned this in the previous tutorial, that we have main components of ALM as ALM Desktop Client, Lab Management, Performance Center, Site Administrator, Tools, and README, where tools is just equal to the add-ins which you would need in further to automate or integrate additional tools and additional features like importing data from Excel or exporting reports to another mode. So to begin with, first of all, let's click on the ALM Desktop Client, and what we see here is they will ask us for a user ID and password. So let's just wait for this to load. Alright, so here we have a credential required, name and password, and domain and project. But generally, first time when you try to log in, you may not have a user ID, password, or a project or domain to be created. Now for that, you need to have access to site administration. Remember team, if you are the one who has installed the server of this ALM second part, then you are the one who is site administrator, and you must be knowing, as you define the site administrator username and password during the creation of the schema. If you are working in an organization, you must write a mail to your site administrator of ALM in order to access the same. So for us, we have the access to it. So let's go back to the site administrator and quickly access the admin panel to create an account and get access to a project. So click on login here, and we have access to the ALM. So the very first thing is to create a domain, which is to create a project domain. For example, like when you talk about retail markets, e-commerce, airlines, banking domain, healthcare, so just about similar thing, like what kind of domain your project lies under is what you define here. So let's quickly take some example. For example, airline. Airline is my domain. I click on the OK button and the airline is created. Now the next thing is to create a project under this domain, because project is something on which you basically work using ALM, and you start creating. So we have four options here, but this is exclusive to site administrator, which a user of ALM from the project management point of view will not be having access to this. So I may not go into the details of this, as this tutorial is about ALM, not site administrator. Create an empty project, create a project from template, create a project by copying data from an existing project, and create a project by importing data from an exported project file. So we do have options to import data from a template, existing project, or an exported file from previous projects, or create an empty project. In our case, we will be creating an empty project here. The project name, let's us give it as flight underscore reservation, because it's a database and does not allow you to include spaces to be a part of your project name. Next. So here you don't have to work on anything, just click on next, say OK, and right now you are not a registered user, so you don't have the list of the user available, so just click on next. We can do that later. There are a lot of extensions which are available within ALM. We can make use of that, but right now you can just say next, because our system we don't require any additional extensions. Click on next and activate the project, which is to enable accessing the project. And if you want to also manage the configuration, that is version control, you can enable this checkbox. Click on create. So it's just to how to create a project under a domain. So two activities we have understood here. One is creating a domain and creating a project. The second part of it, we will be creating the user account to access, because if you remember on the ALM page you had four options to deal with. One is to log in with your user credentials, and second, to have access to a project in order to do any activity. So right now our project is getting created. At the bottom you can see some of the progress happening, and once it is created we will have a confirmation on the screen to get started. So just let's wait for a moment here. It's just that it's very heavy tool, so it may take a lot of time, some time to do some simple activities as well. So having a very high configuration system is highly recommended for using ALM, as it's very vast and has lot of features to be incorporated at any point of time. Alright, so our project is now created. You can see the project details and the project users, but as of now we have not added any user. So let's go to site user. So site administration will create your account and give you a password as well. So let's create a new account by clicking on the first button here and say Neeraj and OK, and select your account and click on password. So I'm just giving a simple password which I can remember and say OK. Now you're done with it, but the last thing what is remaining is to associate yourself to the project. So click on add user from the user list, and a user list on the right is displayed to you. Now you see my user account being listed. Click on import and enable the project administrator. So team, when you talk about the project administrator rights, you have access to all the modules of the ALM. Whereas if you don't enable this option, you have access to only creating the test cases and executing the test cases. But as a part of the series, we will be understanding everything about ALM. Thus, I'm creating myself as a project administrator. So once you are done with this, click on logout, because you are done with site administrator now, and back. Again, click on desktop client, and this should again launch the login page. So here you need to put your username followed by the password, and first authenticate yourself. If you are authenticated user, then you will be shown with your associated projects. It's possible that when you have a user account but not associated with any project, you will not see any of the project listed here. That means you may have a user account but not a project, then you cannot log in into ALM. So click on login and you will see the very first view of ALM within the application. So let's just wait for that. Alright, so welcome to ALM now. So you have the very first view of ALM where everything is fresh, new, blank, where we can work on everything. On the left you will find all the components of ALM which we discussed in the previous tutorial, and we'll be working on all of them in more detail.
Well, keeping it basic and simple, today we have understood that how exactly site administrator works and what kind of responsibilities a site admin will have within an organization having ALM, and also help different users to work on this. Site administrator is just not a simple thing. How you saw that, it has a lot of other features, including the customization of the tool as per the need of the organization. But yes, we will be talking a little more detail at upcoming videos. So stay tuned for that. That's all from this particular episode, team. If you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'll be there to address your queries and answer them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, keep understanding the context. Thanks for watching the video, team, and happy learning.